بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره بمقداره العظيم. Alhamdulillah. So this is mashallah, my second opportunity to speak here today. In the first, I call them conversations really. I don't really like to lecture as much as just speak with people. So hopefully if it goes well, we'll just have a conversation. What that means is that I'll ask you questions, and especially in this one is actually a bit more question answer. So the success of this of our gathering is already here because we're already here together. Alhamdulillah, may Allah accept. But in terms of our journey today, I hope that it will be because of our speaking together about this topic. When I was given, when Kim and I were speaking about what to speak about, he suggested a beautiful surah Qasas, and talking about the narration of Musa, which is most of the surah. And as I started to think about it, I started to think about all the, where do you start? There's so much there. How you doing? There's so much there. It's like, where do you even start? And where do you start, and what do you sort of try to get out of? So I had to kind of back up a little bit. I felt a little bit overwhelmed. And then I overwhelmed myself much further by thinking about the word qasas itself. So now what you're about to endure, I'm very sorry. I did it to myself first, and now I'm going to do it to you. But hopefully it will we'll walk away all the more overwhelmed with information, but hopefully understanding. So where I started from, the word qasas and this idea of qissa, and just sort of it's always interesting to try to, for me, whenever I'm trying to understand. I've been studying the Arabic language since conversion. That was in 1995, or reversion, however you want to phrase it. And so even to this day, I feel like Allah has blessed me. I've come some distance, but I'm still amazed by the language, and I'm still amazed by the way it's formed, and I'm amazed by what you can gather from it. Only really because of mostly. I mean, the poetry is beautiful as well, but the Quran itself, the revelation itself. What is Allah saying? Why did He use this word and not that word? Right? Why did He phrase it this way and not that way? There are mysteries in the Quran, for example. I'll say very, very briefly, just to push the point. So, for example, the Quran says the Quran has no grammatical errors. It's not a book of error in any sense. Even the Christian and atheist Arabs have to admit that. For example, if you want to check Arabic grammar, you go to the Quran. It's a miracle. We all know that the Prophet ﷺ was not literate in that sense. So where did he get this fluidity and this perfection from? Even if he had been very well trained in the language, how do you produce something like this? They didn't have this kind of ingenuity either. They wrote in certain ways, and the Quran was outside of that. I think most of you have heard this before. So for example, the Quran says, Allahu wa rasuluhu ahaqqu an yarduhu in kuntum mu'minin. So Allah and His Messenger have a right to Allah and His Messenger have a right that you should. The translation says, if you are truly believers, Allah and His Messenger have a right to be pleased. That's the translation in English. But in Arabic, it doesn't say that. It says Allah and His Messenger have more of a right that you should please Him. An yarduhu. Now the problem is that, and I definitely have a tendency towards looking into what I find to be problematic. I always want to understand. The problem is that in the language, you have a pronoun, you have a word that can refer to two people, huma. Allahu wa rasuluhu ahaqqa yarduhuma, for example. Allah and His Messenger have more of a right that the both of them should be pleased. But it doesn't say that. It says, Allahu wa rasuluhu haqqa yarduhu. Allah and His Messenger have more of a right that you should please Him. So what's happening? If you say that Allah and His Messenger have more of a right to please Him, who is the Him that's being referred to? Is it the Prophet ﷺ or is it Allah? If you say it's the Prophet ﷺ, that's a problem because you're putting the Prophet ﷺ before Allah, which is not something that you do. If it's not, it's a problem in terms of eloquence, in the least, because the pronoun needs to go back to you have nouns that are like clear, like David, Toby, and you have pronouns, which him, he or she. So in order for that pronoun to sort of make it needs to go back to the first clear noun, which in this sense would be the Prophet ﷺ, or Allahu wa rasuluhu. So you have a problem here in the sense that if it's taken literally, if it's taken at face value, it doesn't seem to be the most appropriate expression. So what do you do? So the Quran has things like this. What is it there for? It's there for us to think a little bit deeper. First of all, who is this Prophet ﷺ that arrangement is there? And anyway, so that's a different conversation for a different day as to why that is and what the scholars have said about that, or what maybe deeper insights might say. But I'm just trying to tell you that this book is deep. It's very deep, and our deen is very deep. And there's not a mistake. And me personally, I hope to be a person of Quran. I hope to be that, because I've realized that all the people of Allah, if you look in their lives, they're all people of Quran, all of them. You can't be God's person and you don't love His book. It doesn't work like that. As for me, I became a Muslim in 1995, which means I'm going for the gold. I left my I'm a cultural apostate. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, kind of, right? I'm still an American, quite obviously, but like I left many of the pillars of what it means to be an American, or what it means to be from the West or whatever. I left that stuff because I realized there's a higher truth. There's more here. There's more going on. So for me, I really want to sort of go all the way. But on a more sort of personal note, and I might have said this before here as I'm setting up the talk now. I might have said this before here, but obviously it made an effect on me. When I was in California, there was a Sudanese uncle, an older Sudanese man, who used to be in this masjid in Oakland, California. He was there pretty much every time I would go there. It turns out he lived across the street. And every time I would go there, he would be reading Quran. Every time. He would be rocking back and forth reading Quran. So me being the American with no adab, right, no good manners, I sat down next to him, and I was just like, I said, hey, so, Assalamu alaikum, I said to him, every time I come to this mosque, I see that you're reading Quran, every time. And he smiled. And then I noticed that his eyes were really wet. He was crying. And I was like, whoa. So when he looked up at me, it kind of startled me because his eyes are so moistened and he was so enraptured in what he was doing. I asked him, what causes you to read Quran like this? And he said to me, by Allah, it's the halawa that I get from this recitation, the sweetness. He said, Wallahi, by Allah, I swear I get a sweetness from this book in such a way I cannot put it down, I cannot let it go. And I felt like from that moment that if I hadn't felt like that before, I felt afterward. And in many occasions, my own teacher, for example, may Allah preserve him, Sheikh Wal Khairi in Mauritania, he and his Jamaat, they do a khatam of Quran every morning. That's it. Like, that's how they start the day. They sit down and just do the thing, and then the Sheikh Al Khairi himself, he has like 4 Jews in front of him. Everyone else has like 1. He has like 4. and like it's ridiculously, the proximity they have to this book and how it's in there, like the place it has in their life is just, it's miraculous. It's miraculous. They literally start their day like this. They're all hufad of Quran, all of them, the whole village. Like you can't reach like 8 and you're not hafid already. Like you can see the effect of the book on their lives. It's just everywhere. It's in the air. It's like literally in the air. Like before, they play the Quran constantly. It's just everywhere. So I hope that for us, for example, for today, us taking this time to look into the Quran and to look into the meanings that are there. I hope that it will push me first to try to attain the goal that I've tried to maybe set for myself, which is I really hope to leave this world. I hope to live in this world, and personally hope to leave this world being a person of Allah. I don't really want the tests that come with that though. So we make dua that Allah can do it. It's, grace. So anyway, I thought about this, and I thought deeply about this. I feel because I couldn't get past the word qasas. I just couldn't get past, because the surah is called qasas, or the stories, the narrations, and I couldn't get past it too far. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to get into a whole lot of depth in the narration itself about Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, but a general overview. So that's what I hope that we'll do. So as I said before, I want to ask you now, this is the part where I engage you, and this is how I prefer to have conversations. This is my preference. I want to ask you, are any of you here, do you read novels? Do you read books? If you like to, do you like to read fiction or non-fiction? Non-fiction. Oh, that's interesting. Once in a while, sorry?
Once in a while I get stuck with the novel, but for the most part.
Yeah, you just, so why? Like why do you like not, why do you, fiction even? It's not even happening. What makes you want to read a fictional novel? Yeah. No, go. Okay. People and stories you can relate to, but it's fiction. It didn't happen though.
It's about the experience.
It's about experience. A personal confession. I didn't start reading novels until very recently. And the reason why I didn't read it was because fictional, I didn't read fiction until very recently. And the reason why I didn't was because I was like, well, I already have to live this life. Why do I want to read about someone else's life that didn't even happen when I have to do it myself? So I didn't read it at all. But you're saying something about relativity, about relating, isn't it? Okay. I feel like more of you read novels than who are saying. Who else reads stories? Everybody loves stories, though. Everybody loves stories. You don't have to read a novel to love a story. Everybody loves stories. You have that uncle that tells the best stories. Everybody loves stories, But my question, and this is a genuine question, why? Why do we like stories so much? Who cares? Just give me the facts, man. Why do I gotta? What do I want a story for? Just tell me what happened or what didn't happen. What do I need stories for?
It's interesting.
We get to know ourselves.
He said it's interesting. You said?
We get to know ourselves, we recognize ourselves, our emotions, and we read about other people's emotional experiences.
She said that we get to know about ourselves by reading about other people's experiences. Excitement, entertainment, yeah. But why is it important to know yourself? Why can't you just look at yourself? Why do you need to read someone else's story to get to know yourself? Like why? Comparison, all right. Motivation.
Mirror reflection.
Sorry?
Mirror reflection.
Mirror reflection, right, yeah.
It's a mirror to another believer.
Yeah, the believer is the mirror to the other believer.
Understanding different parts of humanity.
She said understanding different parts of humanity. Yeah, because you can't experience all of humanity. You can't be in every situation. Different perspective. So if you'd asked me this question about four or 5 months ago, I would have said, wallahi, I have no idea. I have no idea why stories make any difference. Qasas, the word qasas, which is the name of the chapter, stories, is very interesting. Qasas is the act of tracing or narrating step by step. Qasas is the idea of tracing something step by step. For example, like, imagine in the desert you see a camel trail and you follow the hoofs of the hoof prints of the camel. If you continue on that line, you will see what the camel saw. Or you will, probably more likely, you will see, if someone was riding the camel, probably closer, you'll see the journey that camel took into the desert. If you follow it. If you trace it back, you will be able to take the same journey as the camel or as the rider of the camel. You'll be able to see what happened. But in order for you to be able to see what happened, you have to follow it step by step. And as you follow it step by step, you're experiencing what that camel experienced. Okay, so in other words, if you want to see, how you doing? If you want to see what happened with something, if you want to see the truth of the affair, if you want to see the truth, isn't it like we love a good story because we always want to know what happened. We want to know the truth. So a person who tells a real good story, how they tell you is they kind of set you up in such a way where they put a lot of mystery and you want to know like, yeah. And then if they're good at telling stories, they'll keep playing with and draw you in and give you more detail and more detail. If they want to ruin your day, it's a terrible ending. But at the end of the day, you want to know the truth. You want to know what actually happened. That's why we love stories so much. It's the experience. So it's not just the fact either. It's not just the fact. For example, I'll come to that. It's not just the fact. It's also the journey to the fact. We love it. It's how truth unfolds over time. We love it. I mean, how else do you explain how people can read like super long novels? Right? Like, how do you find the stamina for that? Because all the person is doing, they're just looking at a giant book and they're saying, oh my God, how many words is that? And what they don't realize is, no, the person who's reading the book, they're on a journey. That book takes them out of their personal experience. It takes them out of where they are and it puts themselves into another experience. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So the root meaning of qasas tells us that the truth by its nature is not immediate or obvious either. It must be sought and traced and followed carefully. So Allah is using the word qasas. From the beginning, we know that the stories that are going to be involved in the surah are the nature of these events, the nature of this interplay between myself and, in this sense, the Quran itself, is one of, it's not so, like you might meet some Muslims sometimes, I kind of sense this, that they just feel like, and we'll get to this point, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but this asks the question that why does God tell us so many stories in Quran? Why in the world would you involve stories in Revelation? Revelation is about the truth. It's about the hard facts. But we find that so many truths are told to us through stories. Well, doesn't that raise the question as to why? What does it have to do with us? Or more importantly, it seems like Revelation, facts are facts, man. So it seems like all you really need to have, Quran just should have been just a set of statements. These are the facts. This is true, 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 and if you don't accept it, you're going to go to hell. End of story. But that's not the way Revelation is. Revelation is full of stories. Why is that? So the root meaning of qasas tells us that truth is not immediate. Truth by its nature is not immediate or obvious. It must be sought and traced and followed carefully. So let me ask you though, guys. The question I'm asking you now is why? If we accept this, why? Why must truth be sought? Why isn't truth just obvious?
Engages you.
It engages you. Yeah. Kind of draws you in, isn't it? Something that's too easy, you're just like, eh. Something that's super valuable, it's like, eh. If you really love something, no, if something is very valuable, it has a lot of worth to it, you can't just have it. It covers itself. It has modesty. Things that are valuable have modesty because they know their own worth. Things that have no value, they'll show you their reality real quick, immediately. There's no mystery now because it has no worth. So truth by its nature hides. Truth by its very nature hides. And isn't that the nature of a story? When you want to know what happened, it pulls away. You have to trace, you have to go after the steps. Stories are told in past tense. You can't tell a story in present tense. It's not a story. I'm sitting here right now. I'm talking to you. Am I telling you a story? I was in the parking lot and I was sitting there and then I came here. Yeah, and then? That's a story. You're following the traces. So in stories, as in tracking, the full meaning is only revealed over time through attention to sequence and detail. So stories require patience. Stories require time, and they reveal themselves over time. Which also means that, for example, Surah Al-Qasas, the stories that are in that story are only going to really reveal themselves to us over time. Whether it's time, like 7th century to now, or time as in I've read this story literally 16,000 times. Yes, you have. You've memorized it, but every time you read it, it gives you something else. This implies that truth is layered, often hidden beneath appearances, and revealed only to those who pursue it with care and patience. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Truth is only revealed, the nature of truth is that it is something that it is only revealed by pursuit and with care and with patience. So what conclusion are we making? Truth in the worldview. Now this is what I've just done to us. Truth in the worldview of the word qasas is something that must be sought and not assumed. It is discovered by following traces, not by standing at a distance. Truth has to be pursued. Truth has to be pursued. Hey, have you read that new Harry Potter? Yeah. Well, I mean, I bought it. What do you mean you bought it? Well, I mean, it's there. Have you read the story? No, but I mean, I bought it. You might have missed the point. You have to painstakingly, for some people it's not a pain, just read it and just each page, and you're trying to figure out what happened. What happened? And that's the nature of truth. Truth is like this. So, I'm going to ask you again, if you agree, or if we're in the right place, I want to ask you again, when it comes to Quran, why are we being told stories? He said that so we can learn more and more. To engage us, yeah. I can't see who said that. Say it louder.
It's easier to remember facts.
Yes.
The important lessons.
Yes.
When we just read nonfiction.
Definitely. She's saying that it's easier to remember the facts, remember truth when it's told in stories. This is true, yeah.
So we can relate.
So we can relate. This is kind of the direction I wanted to go, because some of you said this earlier. We are told stories in the Quran not because we forget facts, not because we forget them, but because we forget how to see. We're told stories because we forget how to see the truth. If the truth is always hiding itself, it's not obvious, that takes a certain kind of eye to be able to see it. The truths that are in the story of Musa, and they are deep, and they are many, hopefully we'll be able to make it there today. If you look at the story of Musa alayhi salam, in my estimation, I've always kind of felt like I've related to Musa more than any other prophet. And that's nothing to do with piety or something like that, because if it was, I would say, oh yeah, Rasulullah, obviously. Of course, that's our Nabi. But the one that I feel like I personally seem to relate to more is Musa. Why? Because Musa's always having a hard time. He's always having a hard time. His mom had like some kind of thing happen where God spoke to her, put him into a boat, into the river. He got lost for a little while, got taken up by an extreme narcissist named Pharaoh. On and on. He saw his people being, he struck the guy out of a sense of justice, killed somebody by accident. His story is just vast. Jumping ahead, he got with angel of death, and according to the hadith, the angel of death tried to come to him in the end of his life, and he felt some type of way, and he punched the angel of death in the eye and knocked his eye out of the socket. That's Moses. Personally, I kind of relate to that more than any other prophet I've read, because this whole faith thing, believing in God thing, is not easy. And it doesn't always make sense. You ever read the story of Musa and Khidr? Right? Poor Musa. Someone has just asked him, so who's the most knowledgeable? And he was like, I am. And Allah sent him to Khidr. Only to realize I don't know anything. I don't understand what's happening here whatsoever. You're supposed to be a man of God, and you're destroying things, you're killing children. I don't know what's going on here. Poor Moses. How many of us are in Khidri situations where we have no idea what's going on? I don't know, God. You told me if these people, they told me if I believe in you and I pronounce the Shahada that my life will be better. Well, let's see. I took Shahada, and then this happened, 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 and then that happened. Or, I haven't been practicing my whole life, but I was told that if I started practicing, Allah would be nicer to me. I started practicing, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. That's Musa. Did Musa choose to be a prophet? No. All he was trying to do was try to get some fire for his people, for his wife. She was pregnant. Can you imagine? He was so jealous of his wife, he didn't want anyone to see her. So he only traveled at night. He came out at night and traveled with her so no one can see her. And they got to a certain situation where she was very hungry, she was very cold. He went to go get, according to the Mufassirin, he went to go get some fire for her because she was freezing. He goes out, he sees the fire burning there, a tree is on fire by itself. He doesn't think about it much. You're in the middle of the desert, there's a tree burning all by itself, you might want to... But he's just like, there it is. He goes to get the thing and the tree starts speaking to him. I'm God. Innani ana Allah fa'budani. Verily I am God, so therefore worship me. According to some of the Mufassirin, he went on his journey from that day. From that day, his journey started with God. And all he was trying to do was get fire for his wife. Shaykh Ibrahim Niyas in his tafsir mentioned that she didn't see him again. He didn't see her again for 40 years. Talk about trial. And he also mentioned that Allah made Allah like manifested that way. He showed Himself that way. That tajalli happened that way because that was the only way that Musa was going to pay attention. In other words, Allah made Himself available to Musa according to the trials and tribulations that Musa was suffering. In other words, he needed fire. She was cold. That's why he went to the fire. If it had been anything else, he wouldn't have gone towards it. In other words, God placed Himself there with the trial, with His need. Does that make sense? So why are we being told stories then? We are told stories in the Quran not because we forget facts, but because we forget how to see. When we read the story of Musa, we understand that the trials and the tribulations... First of all, let me tell you something. The Quran is not there to make you feel better about the fact that you lost all your money in the stock market. That's not what it's there for. It's not there to help you understand the beautiful, the intricacies of medieval Italian Pisa when the tower shifted and the architectural miracles behind that. That's not what Quran is for people who believe. Quran is for people who believe in Allah and in His Messenger, and they believe in the last day. That's what Quran is for. Because I hope to be amongst these people, and I consider you to be these people. Believers are being tried. If you're given belief, you're being tested because you're given something so valuable. And you, the person who has the belief, you are so valuable. You are valuable because of the belief placed in you. That you are to rise to a certain occasion. So I need to be able to see myself, the believer, outside of myself, in the believer. That's Musa. With him being tried the way he's being tried because he has to carry this message, or because he's trying to worship God, or he's trying to be true to reality itself, God puts him through so much stuff. And we want to see what happens. But we want to see what happens so that I can understand what's going to happen with me. You will never find a change in the Sunnah of Allah. We are reading Quran to understand how God works, because you will never find a change in the Sunnah of God. Stories are maps made of traces. They teach us how to walk toward truth, not to just know it. It's not enough that we just have dots. Quran could have been simple. There's no God but God. Muhammad is the messenger of God. There's a day of judgment. You will be tried. That's it. Fact. End of story. But it's something that we're supposed to put ourselves into. It's something that's supposed to come inside of us. So why does that matter to me? This matters to you and it matters to me because the stories in the Quran are not about them. They are about you learning how to read your own life. The Quran is there for you to read your own life. As a person of belief, it's there for you to read your own life because Allah will not change His Sunnah for you. Allah's not going to change His ways for me. Who am I? You're a person of belief? Tafaddal, marhaban. This is my Sunnah. Read about it, understand it. And if you read about it and understand it, then you'll understand me and understand more about yourself. So what does God's choice to narrate the story of Musa in Surah Al-Qasas, rather than simply listing historical facts, reveal about what He wants from us? So if you look at this, what I've done with you guys, all I did was ask myself a bunch of questions and I tried to find answers. So I'm just sharing with you my own personal story. So let me ask you then. So that being said, with what we've just heard, and if it makes sense, what does God's choice to narrate the story of Musa in Surah Al-Qasas, rather than simply listing historical facts, reveal about what He wants from us? Have you ever thought that God wants something from you? Have you ever thought that? Well, what does it reveal? He wants us to become readers of signs. Learn how to see the signs. Followers of meaning and walkers of the path, not passive receivers of data or data, whichever English you prefer. In the earlier talk today, I think this is relevant now. In the earlier talk today, I asked everybody that was there, I said, what is the difference between yourself, an animal, and AI? Anybody who was here earlier, don't say anything. Shh. And now I'm asking you, what is the difference between a human being, an animal, and AI?
Consciousness?
Were you guys there?
No.
And that's the answer. The difference, the answer, simultaneously you guys said it. The difference, what makes us different than animals is that we are aware of our existence. We are a creature who has to deal with the fact that we know that we're here. One day we were like, oh, dude. And ever since that moment, it's been, oh man, I gotta go to work. Oh my God, these bills are ridiculous. Oh, I'm so stressed out. Oh my God, I cannot wait to go to Mallorca. Going to Mallorca, it's gonna be awesome. The beaches, like we're constantly wrestling with the fact that we exist. We have to think about that. And so what makes a human being and why AI, as impressive as it might be, it will never be a human being is because it doesn't even know it's there. It doesn't even know it's there. How impressive is that? And the animal doesn't know it's there. I mean, you have animals that have some level of recognition, but nothing like the human being. I think dolphins and elephants are on the level of most animals, as I said earlier today, if you put a mirror in front of them, like a cat, the cat will scratch the mirror. The cat doesn't even realize it's chasing it's attacking itself. So what makes us human beings is the fact that we have self-awareness. And when you have self-awareness, when you are aware of the fact that you are there, that you exist, meaning starts to come into life. It starts to matter that you exist. Like this plant, this is real, right? Sorry. I don't think the plant really cares. If you ever said, hey plant, have you ever thought that, you're just a plant? Like it's not going to go very far for you. You ever thought about that? Like you're never really going to have a big house. Like you're never really going to have any standing in society. You're probably not going to have any wealth. You're going to get old and you're going to have to die. The plant is just planting. The human being has all of that going on. So we are creatures by nature who have to wrestle with meaning. The fact that we exist, the fact that we're here matters to us. So God tells us Musa's story not to tell us what was. This is not a fact-finding mission. If you want fact-finding, you can use AI all you want. But to show us how to live now, how to live, how to see, how to interact with meaning. What's going on? Because it matters to us because we realize that we're sitting here and we have to do this. I don't know I'm sorry to be dark about this, but I don't know if there's any other creature on this planet that commits suicide than human beings. I don't know. And if they do, it might be more of just the lemming following the lemming.
Which isn't true.
It's not true.
The Disney producers are pushing them off the ledge.
That's terrible. Oh my God. That's terrible. So I don't know if you're going to find any animals that are committing suicide. So what's up with us that we do that? It's because we're struggling so hard with meaning and how to see that there is any. Fine. And I appreciate your endurance. We're all fasting. I get to talk, so I get to make myself, I'm coaxing you into so Mayor Larry, would you? All right. Next phase of this of our journey. Do you think? Question for anyone. Is there a difference between reading a book and watching a movie?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Who said yes first? Why? What's the difference?
Because when you read the book, you have to use your own imagination.
Okay.
You have to interpret and imagine things yourself. When you're watching a movie, you get it's more your own version when you read the book.
So he said, yeah. If you didn't hear me saying that, when you're reading a book, it's kind of happening. It's your own version. I think we're going to expand on that. When you're watching a movie, you're being shown something. When you watch a movie, you're being shown something. When you read a book, when you read words, that is happening inside of you. The world of that narrative is happening inside of you. Have you ever been reading a book or reading or Quran or any kind of narrative, any kind of story? I mean it in that sense, and it gets so good you kind of forget, or it'll make you laugh, or you'll just go, and the person next to you is like, you're staring at a piece of wood, But no, the world the words that you read is creating a world inside of you, and that world inside of you is real. What's amazing to me is that, and sometimes you realize you asked the wrong question to the wrong person at the wrong time. This happened recently. I was talking to someone, they're like a PhD and all that, and they were also they're a novelist. And I was like, "Oh, you've written novels?" She was like, "Yes, I'm actually very well known for my novels." I was like, "Mashallah." Sorry, I didn't realize. So I said to her, I was like, "I have a question for you, since you are intimate with this kind of thing, because I'm just getting into this. I've actually never really thought much about novels and such stories in this way." I was like, "Can you explain? Isn't it miraculous that these are just words, letters on a page, and somehow it transforms into this life-changing experience? But they're just letters on a page. What happens? How does that even work?" And she got really uncomfortable by that. Yeah, she was like, "Okay, well," and she got up. She literally got up and walked away. I was like, we were like a function, academics like to sit together and talk about their projects, and it's very indulgent, self-indulgent. So she literally got up and walked away from me. So I must have asked the wrong thing. I don't know what I did. Maybe one of you guys can inform me, but I think it was a little bit overwhelming for her. Because if you think about it, it is actually kind of crazy how letters on a page can create a world inside of you, and it can change your life. Most people, they watch films and they'll say, "Oh, that film was great," but I don't know if films are life-changing. Maybe. I don't know if they're life-changing, but something about a narrative and a story, letters on the page, changes one's life. So why is that? Let's take a shot. Can anyone guess? Or does anyone know? The words are alive. They're alive. A word like qasas is not just a story, it's a verb you're meant to do, to trace, to follow, to interpret, to wake up. They don't just mean something, they make something in you. That's what you were saying. Now, go ahead. Oh, you're stretching?
No. The world is created through God's love.
That's the next thing I was going to go. That's exactly what I was going to say. Now, what I think is fundamentally mind-blowing is that when Allah wanted something, He just said to it, "Be," and it is. The world is created through speech. The world is created through words. Words, we are words. These are the words of God unfolding in front of us. The whole thing is a story. He already narrated it to, in the least, the preserved tablet has the whole story there. God narrated to a stone, to a tablet, the story of everything. And all we are is a story unfolding. We're just words on a page. That's crazy. And tell me another creature that can imitate that. Tell me another creature that can tell a story. If you see a donkey like riding like a book, it's okay. Don't tell a lot of people and just come to me, and I'm going to take you somewhere. You're going to feel much better soon. All right. Let's get into the meat of all of that. So since all stories convey meaning through themes, every story has a theme. There are themes in stories. What are the central themes communicated in the story of Musa and Surah Al-Qasas? That's what we're here for. So, okay, fine. Life is a story. I am just a word. This guy is talking crazy. It's all unfolding. I realize the truth of my life over time as it unfolds, as I'm journeying through it. I'm following the traces of God because He already knows the story. It's already been written, and all I'm doing is following the traces. I'm meeting villains, I'm meeting heroes, there's plot twists. The whole thing's happening. It's all unfolding, and there are themes in my life. My life has this, and the story of Musa has this, and I'm reading those stories to understand the themes in my own life so that I can understand the meaning that's in me that's unfolding because God gave me faith. If you look at Surah Al-Qasas, you can find, and anyone with a more keen eye can find perhaps more, 5 themes. How many prayers are there each day? God's hidden planning, the reversal of power, moral formation through exile and hardship, calling with responsibility, not perfection, and the fall of arrogance and the rise of humility. That's a great story. Again, God's hidden planning. And we're going to look at each one of these. The reversal of power, moral formation through exile and hardship, calling with responsibility, not perfection, and the fall of arrogance and the rise of humility. And subhanAllah, I think it's really interesting that we're living in a time now when these stories, the people in Gaza, may Allah help them, and may Allah help us all, are being slaughtered because they have faith. Because they say, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One can argue that they're being slaughtered by a Fir'aun, ironically. And you can keep applying more analogies as you need to as we expand on this. Because someone who just looks at the facts would say, Islam's not true. These people are backward. This guy's going to win. He has more weapons. He has more power. It's all obvious. And my question would be, when has the truth ever been obvious? Ever. What is the summary narrative? So forgive me, I'm going to be reading now just straight from my notes because it's just more interesting than me talking right now. So what is the summary narrative of God's hidden plan? God's plan unfolds quietly beneath the surface of chaos, injustice, and fear. We're talking about Surah Al-Qasas, by the way. If you want to read the surah itself, I think it's between 3 and 46, around that, is the story of Musa. But right now we're just dealing with the themes. We're treating it like a narration because it's called Qasas. God's plan unfolds quietly beneath the surface of chaos, injustice, and fear. While Pharaoh slaughters infants to secure his rule, God protects the very child who will one day defeat him. Go ahead, kill the children. You can't kill God. Placing him safely within Pharaoh's own palace. Didn't see that coming. Each event that seems accidental or unfortunate being cast into the river, each event that seems accidental or unfortunate being cast into the river, raised by the enemy, fleeing in exile, is actually part of a divine design that only becomes clear in hindsight. We're all going to look back and laugh. The story teaches that God's will is never absent. God's will is never absent. Go ahead. You think Pharaoh, God didn't know that Pharaoh was killing children? We call that in the industry giving someone more rope. You're a bad guy. I don't like you. I'm going to give you rope longer to hang yourself with. The story teaches that God's will is never absent, only hidden. Working through the margins, the weak, and unexpected to fulfill His justice. Allah always uses the weak, the marginal, to show you He's the one who has power. Adam, what was Adam doing? Adam was a lifeless clay. God blew into him. The angels were like, oh man, here we go. Shaitan himself was like, are you actually serious? I've been worshiping you for literally thousands and thousands of years, and you're going to give your khilafah to this guy. He's made out of clay. I'm made out of fire. I can burn him. I'm clearly better. That's right. I need you to understand that I'm the greatest, not you. So I use the weak to show you I'm the greatest. So Allah works, He works through the margins, the marginalized, the weak, and the unexpected to fulfill His justice. What is the summary of the reversal of power? If you read in Surah Al-Qasas, you will find these themes. What is the reversal of power? The powerful tyrant who tries to prevent a threat by killing children ends up raising the very child who will bring about his downfall. Pharaoh, at the height of worldly dominance, is undone by an exiled fugitive who returns with divine support. An exiled fugitive. The story reveals that God overturns human hierarchies, raising the lowly and humbling the mighty to show that true power belongs to Him alone, and you will never find a change in the Sunnah of Allah. Never. I swear to God, that Quran that has never been changed, it will never be changed. It cannot be changed. And if you just call Quran literature, I challenge you, find me a book of literature that old that has not been changed. It is impossible. You cannot find that. It's not from here. It's not from here. And as much as that book has not changed now, I'm telling you, until the final day, until forever, it will never change. Likewise, you will never find a change in the Sunnah of Allah. And you will see those who act like this. You've already seen their story. The question is, what side are you going to be on? Read the story because you want to figure out what side you're going to be on. What is the summary of the narrative of moral formation through exile and hardship? Musa's flight from Egypt after killing a man seems like failure. It's kind of a bad situation. But it marks the beginning of his transformation. He was a prophet now. He didn't do it on purpose. But it's the beginning of his transformation. In Midian, as a stranger and a shepherd, he gains humility, patience, and resilience. And if you want to see what masculinity, people now they don't know what does it mean to be a true man, this, that, and the other. It's not a problem. Just look in the book of Allah. Musa helped these women. He used his testosterone to aid those who couldn't help themselves. That's called being a man. That's masculinity. It's not that complicated. You don't use it to oppress people. You use it to help those who can't help themselves. In Midian, as a stranger and shepherd, he gains humility, patience, and resilience. Traits he lacked in Pharaoh's palace. He didn't have those there. He didn't have to. He was like a prince. His time in exile prepares him not only to receive revelation, but to lead with mercy and strength. He led with mercy and strength. That's how a man leads. With mercy and strength. Because you have the power, but you don't use it against people. You use it for people. The story shows that God refines character through isolation, struggle, and delay, turning personal setbacks into the soil of prophetic readiness. What is the summary of the narrative of calling with responsibility, not perfection, in the story of Musa? Was Musa perfect? No, he was not. Many of us, we feel like we're never going to get anywhere with God until we become perfect. I gotta tell you something. We'll talk about it after the talk. But the spoiler alert is that that's never going to happen. When God calls Musa, he responds with fear. When God calls Musa, how does he respond? Fear, self-doubt, and reminders of his flaws. He's like, of course, none of us can relate to that. I want to pray, but I don't know. I feel like I'm not good enough. Say, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim." When God calls Musa, he responds with fear, self-doubt, and reminders of his flaws, his past killing, his speech impediment, his exile. But God does not wait for perfection. He reassures him, equips him, and commands him. What matters is not being flawless, but willing to carry the message with sincerity and courage. You don't need to be perfect. Just do it for me. Look at the Roda Institute. May Allah bless this place. This is this is a courageous act. It's not exactly easy to be Muslim in Sweden these days. It's not like you're getting support. It's not like you're not being isolated, even from your own people. Oh, no, don't go over there. Divide and conquer. We call that in the industry. No. Oh, they don't have a lot of knowledge. They don't study anything like that. As if, was that ever a requirement? Allah doesn't need you. He doesn't need your knowledge. He doesn't need your Arabic. He doesn't need anything from you. In case you didn't hear, God is the greatest, not you. I've been to Al-Azhar, I've been to Qarawiyyin, I graduated from Qarawaan, I attended Harvard, Oxford, a couple of other you might have heard of, Cambridge. I'm very qualified to help this community. Allah will push you to the side and will find someone who can't read or write, never been to school. He will befriend this person and leave you in the dust. Because he's sincere. May Allah bless the sincere. May Allah allow us to be amongst them, and if we're not, at least to support them. The story teaches that God does not demand perfection to entrust someone with responsibility. He calls the flawed and strengthens them in the task. God calls on flawed people and makes them stronger. That's what he does. What is the summary of the narrative of the fall of arrogance and the rise of humility? Pharaoh declares himself Lord. That's a mistake. Surrounds himself with power and rejects every sign sent to him, believing he's untouchable. In contrast, Musa acknowledges his weakness, seeks help, and openly declares his need for God. By the end, Pharaoh is swallowed by the sea he thought he controlled. If you're the Lord of this sea, you need to have a conference because it just killed you. While Musa stands saved, leading his people across it. Can you imagine? The same sea that killed Pharaoh saved Musa. That's Allah. Pharaoh is swallowed by the sea he thought he controlled, while Musa stands saved, leading his people. The story reveals that arrogance leads to ruin, while humility opens the way for divine support and lasting leadership. I'm going to close with, I have, well, actually I can probably do this. It might be a little quicker than before. Okay, question I ask myself now. This is my narrative to you guys. In order for this story to, in order for this story, in order for this story to benefit me, it has to be about me ultimately, doesn't it? That's the question. So how is it? In the Quran, stories like that of Musa are not preserved as distant history. This is not a history lesson. They are not told so that you locate. They are told so that you locate yourself in them. If you are having some kind of issues because you're like a non-believer and you're like in debt and you this, that, and the other, Quran's not for you. That's not what it's for. Quran is for people who believe in Allah and in the last day. And they live their life based upon that belief. This is a manual for you because you're in a special track. You're living a special life. You're different because your destination is different. Our destination is Allah. That's the goal, man. People say, no, it's Jannah. What you want Jannah for? Jannah, you think Jannah is Jannah because Jannah is great. Jannah is only great because Allah made it great. Jannah is the best, perfect dunya. Dunya is not that great. Allah is better. I don't want Jannah, I want Allah. But if you want to, I'll take Jannah for sure. I don't mind it. But like if I can't have you, what kind of a paradise is that? In other words, I want you direct. So in the Quran, stories like that of Musa are not preserved as distant history. They are told so that you locate yourself in them. If you don't see yourself, your fears, your power, your exile, your calling, your arrogance, your need to trust, then the story remains outside of you. And if you're not reading the Quran, what a tragedy that is. You're out here trying to be a believer all on your own. How will I find them in me? Okay, if I find the stories outside of me, how can I find them in me? That's the question I ask myself. You find Musa's story in you by looking not at the facts of your life, but at the patterns. Times of fear, silence, struggle, calling and reversal, and seeing who you became through them. If you're a Muslim, listen, man, if you're a Muslim and you're having a hard time, or if you didn't come here because you don't feel like you're good enough to be amongst these righteous people, I would tell you that, mashallah, you are much more in touch with yourself than most people. Most people, they become religious, and then they just think they're better than everybody else, and they don't even bother looking at themselves anymore. They just judge everybody. They learn ahkam to figure out they learn the rules to figure out like, got you. I'm better than you. I know more than you. And I caught you. I should give you advice. Ad-din al-nasiha, brother. That's not what nasiha is about, by the way. No. If you feel that, man, I'm trying to do this Islam thing, it's not because my parents did it, it's because I really believe in Allah and the Messenger, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This dunya is just not worth it, but I'm really terrible. I would say to you that you're really human, because we said before, self-awareness is what makes a human being. You're really human. And because you're really human, you're really valuable to God. And because you're really valuable to God, God will not leave you. That's why Shaitan will come to you and he'll keep you busy with yourself. Yeah. Don't go to the Roda. They're going to know that you don't pray. Don't go there. His ultimate goal is to make you leave Islam, because he knows how valuable you are with God. May Allah bless this place. So you find Musa's story in you by looking not at the facts of your life. No. It's not just this. I wasn't raised in Palestine. I'm not a Hebrew. This doesn't apply to me. It's not a list of facts. But at the patterns of the story, times of fear, silence, struggle, calling and reversal, and seeing who you became through them. Something as simple as just trying to get up for Fajr. But you wake up later and go, I did it again. The struggle is real. But you're struggling for Allah. You're struggling for Allah. The Quran says, and I'm closing with this statement, indeed in their stories is a lesson, ibra. The word is ibra. Indeed in their stories is a lesson for people of deep thought, self-awareness. It is not a fabricated tale. This actually happened. But a confirmation of what came before it. Meaning the Quran is not a fabricated tale. The stories of Quran are not a fabricated, it's the sunnah of Allah. This is the story that's been happening since the dawn of time, since the dawn of Adam. And a guidance and a mercy for people who believe. The stories are a guidance and a mercy for us. Because as you said, and others said, because I need to be able to relate, I gotta be able to see myself so that I can be inspired. I can be persuaded that this is true. If I can see the pattern in my life, if I can see, yeah, this happens, this goes down. I understand that fear. I understand that worry. I understand the anxiety. I understand, like, wow, Musa wasn't, he was a Nabi, but like he was really human. Because that's you. You're looking at your own story. And if you see the pattern of how Allah dealt with Musa, if you see in the pattern of how Allah dealt with Bani Israel, if you see how Allah dealt with Fir'aun, you can also see how Allah will deal with those figures in your life. As long as you are on the straight path. Indeed, in their stories is a lesson, an ibrah, for people of deep thought. It is not a fabricated tale, but a confirmation of what came before it, and a detailed explanation of all things. And a guidance and a mercy for people who believe. And in the end, mashallah, jazakallah khair, that's what we wanted to say. Thank Allah for the guidance and the mercy of these stories. You know what I'm saying? And this is the month of Ramadan, the month of Quran. We dedicate, let's make an intention now. I want to be like this old man that was crying because he found the sweetness of Quran was so, that's my goal, you know. I really want that. I really want to be from the people of Allah. I really want to be from the people of Quran. But I really need to find myself in that, man. I can't do it if I can't relate to it. And you can't relate to it if you don't think about it. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبُّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ? Do they not contemplate the Quran? You're contemplating the Quran not because you're trying to be, this is my point and closing point. You're contemplating the Quran not because you're trying to be a better Muslim. You're contemplating the Quran because you need to understand yourself. There's no competition with anybody here. This is for you. And he who knows himself knows his Lord. If you understand yourself, that's the pathway to understanding Allah, because you understand how Allah is dealing with you, the patterns of Allah. If you understand the art, you understand the artist. Jazakallah khair. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah. I don't think there's time for